Hey, well, welcome everybody. So glad you're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so with us. Welcome to the Further Faster How To Hub. The idea behind all this is that we want to be really practical and really helpful. And if you go to our website, furtherfaster.network, you'll see the How To Hubs for the whole year. They happen once a month and we get some experts, some very special voices, some very special guests into our midst to talk about some of the things that really affect us. If you were with us last month, we talked about this quiet revival that seems to be going on in the UK. How do we respond to it? So that's still up there on our website. We had Phil Knox from the EA involved with that, and it was absolutely brilliant. And we've got next. I'm so excited. Next month, Vernon, do you know Gavin Adams?
Oh yeah,
Gavin's jumping on with us, and he's
so good.
Yeah, he's doing a session on how do you create a memorable teaching series at church.
That'll be really good.
I'll send you the link. Yeah, he's a good communicator. He's a fantastic leader. So he's a friend of our network. So Gavin's on, I think it's March the 4th. So, you can go to, I think you can go now to our website, or certainly by the end of this call, you'll be able to go to our website and register for that as well. So we'd love to see you on that. And for those of you who are new to the Further Faster Network, my name's Duncan Banks. As you can see on the screen, I'm the director of this crowd, and we wake up every day with one passion in mind, and that's to help you, to help church leaders grow your church by reaching unchurched people. You know, I say this so often, sometimes, and you must experience this in the States, Vernon, but sometimes churches grow because the church down the road has had a fight, you know, and the pastor's kind of, you know, taken half the people and gone off somewhere else, and your church grows because 20 Christians arrive or something. And that's fine. God rearranges the troops. We know about that. But how do we reach people who aren't even thinking about church, who aren't even thinking about Jesus? And if it's true that everybody spends eternity somewhere, it should be our priority. So our passion is to help you grow your church by reaching unchurched people. And the How To Hub is part of that, the toolbox to help us to do that. So if there's any way in which you think, do you know what, this network could really help me, well, hit us up. I'm going to ask Matt, who's kind of technically looking after this whole thing. I'm going to ask Matt if he wouldn't mind dropping my email into the chat so that you can have that, and you can hit me up directly, or you can go to our website furtherfaster.network and find out more. And one other thing, and then I'm going to hand over to Vernon. I just want to introduce him, but one other thing before I do is, as Vernon goes through this sesh, can I suggest that you have the confidence just to drop some things in the chat, some questions, some comments. You know, if there's somebody that says, hey, hang on a minute, I don't quite understand that, or could you go deeper into that, or you just want to amen it or high five it or whatever, please feel free to drop that in the chat, and we'll pick some of those things up afterwards. And for those of us who are part of the network, we have an exclusive half an hour. If you're a network church, network pastor, we have an exclusive half an hour with Vernon 10 minutes after this call ends, and you'll have the link to that. That link will get sent to you, so you'll have the link to that, so we can all jump on and unmute ourselves and talk one-to-one with the great man. So, let me just introduce Vernon too. Well, I'll get him to introduce himself, but let me introduce how I first got to meet him. I think it must have been, 5 or 6 years ago. I was at a conference at North Point Community Church, and this guy was on stage speaking. And, you know, we were talking just before we jumped on. As leaders, we listen to a whole bunch of talks, trainings, preaches. Like we don't need it anymore. And I walked into this room where he was speaking, and I just sat down and. You know, to be honest, I've become a fanboy. I listened to him on that day, and it was so life-changing. And so I've started to follow you on the socials. I listen to your talks from church, and I think to myself, I'm so tempted to move out to Virginia and come to your church, because, mate, one day I'm going to get there. It sounds so exciting. So he's a fantastic communicator. He's become a good friend to me and a good friend to our network as well, and he'll tell you all about it. He's just written a book which I think you're going to find super helpful as well. And I don't think we don't talk enough about how we keep going in ministry. even when the storms come, even when it gets tough. We talk all the time about, here are 3 ways in which you can do this and 5 ways in which you can do this, and come on, leader, let's work harder and reach the top. And sometimes we sit there as leaders and say, you're kidding me, I'm exhausted, I'm broken, and you want me to push again? I don't know if I can. So I've asked Vernon from his own life experience if he'd talk into that for us. So I'm going to fade into the background and hand over to Vernon for the next 20, 25 minutes or so. But keep those questions coming in the chat because I think we'll find that helpful afterwards, and you'll find it helpful as well. Thanks for jumping on, Vernon. Over to you, my friend.
Well, good morning, everybody, or it's morning here. Good afternoon to you, and I'm so excited to be here. Been seeing me sip my coffee. It's because at 8 a.m. here it is bright and early, but I'm so grateful to have some time to just be with all of you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for building the kingdom. I know what you do matters. And it impacts people, as we all know, one kingdom all across the world. I certainly want to honor Duncan, who has been a great friend and a wise leader that I've been able to learn from. He's being very kind about that. One of those first meetings and encounters, we had a chance to co-facilitate a session at that conference as well. And I think I taught in a few different sessions, but my favorite by far was sitting to his side and being able to engage in conversation and leadership. And so I got as much from being a co-facilitator as I did. So I just want to encourage anybody who's not a part of the network, man, take advantage of that email. It'll change your life. He is full of wisdom, and I am certainly been a firsthand recipient of it. Well, I'm going to just quickly introduce myself, and I was sharing with Duncan and Matt prior to this call. As pastors, as leaders, as preachers, I know that when you get up on this Wednesday, you don't need another sermon, but I do want to be able to share some things that I believe are going to add value to you. But just a little bit about my story. I'm a church planter. Our church has been in existence for 10 years. I've been in full-time ministry for 17 years. But 10 years ago, my wife and I planted a church in Virginia here in the States. And 10 years later, we are now one church with 4 locations. We have 2 in our Virginia area, and then we have another one in our D.C. area, and then one more in Charlotte, North Carolina. So all located on the East Coast of the States. And it's been a beautiful journey, a roller coaster ride. And there have been some really, really high highs, and there have been some low lows. There have been some roller coaster rides, if anybody's a roller coaster fan, where we've just had to put our hands up and say, God, we're along for the ride. But definitely, I want to share a little bit about our journey and our story, and as well as what I believe will add value. And then lastly, just to kind of give you a framework, Duncan mentioned why I'm so passionate about this topic is because I just recently released a book, which I'll tell you a little bit more about at the end, called Life Beyond Fear. But the subtitle is what I think is really appropriate for our time together this morning, which is Unlocking Kingdom Courage in a Worry-Filled World. And I don't think any of us have to look far to know that our world can give us things to worry about. My wife is with me, and we've been married for 15 years, and we have 2 children, 11 and 10, and I have to consistently tell her not to Google what symptoms she's seeing in the children, because she's convinced that they have a panic button condition every time she Googles any symptom. And the reality of it is worry comes to us very easy. Sometimes because of the external factors of our world and social media and other commentary, and then sometimes internally, anxieties and fears. And what I wrote this book for, and not just for others, but I found in my own journey that fear was kind of always along for the ride. I just had to figure out what seat to put it in, that it could either drive the car or I could put it in the back seat. And so as we think about this idea of how to lead when it gets tough, I just want to kind of take any cape off. I want to make sure that I don't position myself as someone who has never been in the seat of saying, man, it is tough. Matter of fact, I don't think we can avoid tough times. I don't think the Bible assures us of that. I don't think the life of a follower of Jesus assures us of that. And certainly not in pastoral ministry does it assure us of that. But I think there is a way that we can navigate it well, that we can stay in the game, that we can stay healthy as we go along for the ride. And so I want to start our time just kind of thinking about this idea. I was looking at some data as I was writing, in January 10th of every year across the world is a moment that marks a shift in our country, in the United States, and certainly across the world, where more than 50% of people, they say, abandon their New Year's resolutions. By January 10th, more than 50% of people will abandon every goal they set. Now, I'm not shaming anybody on this call. You know, I don't know you personally, so if the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. But there's a lot of us who probably set some really, really great goals. Maybe you said you were going to eat a certain way. Maybe you said you were going to work out a certain amount of times. Maybe there was a date night goal. Maybe there was a growth goal, whatever it may have been. There's this reality that we kind of set these bars and these markers and these kind of measurements of success. And January 10th across the world is known as National Quitters Day. It is the day that most people say that was nice in thought and in theory, but not in practice. And most people don't quit goals. Most people don't abandon them. Most people don't compromise them, or most people don't reevaluate them because they didn't have the right heart, because they didn't have the right perspective. Generally, it's because we get exhausted from unmet expectations. We find out that we maybe had goals that were unrealistic emotionally. Maybe we even just start to feel like, man, I got hit unexpectedly with life's challenges. And by June of every given year, only 9% of people have kept in alignment with the vision that they once set for the beginning of the year. And here's what I've come to find, and maybe you have as well. We are very gifted as leaders at preparing for our dreams, our desires, our goals, our aspirations, our metrics, our measurables, our vision boards, our vision parties. And we do all of that really, really great. We're going to manage momentum. We're going to build the team, influence, investment. And these are great desires, great decisions, great dreams. Don't lose them. But here's what I've come to find. It is dangerous to prepare for your dreams and not prepare for your battles. It is dangerous to prepare for your dreams and not prepare for your battles. Why? Because it's in our battles that our beliefs get bullied. It's in our battles that callings get compromised, battles that passion loses patience. It's in our battles that our joy gets jaded, our hope gets heavy, our fight turns to flight. It's in our battles that our love for people starts to feel like a liability. That we came into this year and said, I'm going to pastor people and shepherd people with a pure heart. But man, I didn't know they were going to hurt me. I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't know this person was going to leave. I didn't know that I wasn't going to grow like the church down the street. And all of these things show up. Our beliefs kind of get bullied in battles. And this for me wasn't theory. This for me was actually lived out in a couple of ways. I'll tell you about one now. For me, my story is that I kind of became very acclimated with fear and accustomed to it as a young child. At 10 years old, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had 2 tumors. 14 surgeries, 3 years of chemotherapy. They told me I would die 3 times. I had surgery almost every year of my life from 10 to 22 years old. And so for me, I grew up in hospitals, and things like death, fear, compromise, anxiety, stress were always kind of looming around the corner. And so very early in life, I had to figure out how to take fear and not allow it to consume me. How to take worry and not allow it to run me. And for many of us as leaders, this is not just true of cancer. While my journey with cancer first introduced me to how do I lead my life and how do I end up leading others in spite of these feelings, emotions, pain, worry, how do I do that? And it's not cancer for many of us, but maybe it's a goal that is just consistently not being met, or maybe it's the revenue goal that you need to meet to be able to continue to not only provide for you and your family, but to be able to continue to build the ministry vision. Maybe it's the volunteer that just left that you know was a cornerstone to what you're trying to build. And all of us could probably put in the chat that area, that thing, that moment, that specific thing for you that gives you worry. And here's the thing that we need to talk about. Some of it comes from what we lead, and some of it comes from just our lives. That can we just all make this safe space to say that our whole lives are even not the churches or ministries we lead? That sometimes we have to show up and keep leading when stuff is happening at home. Our children get sick. Our marriages need maintenance. Our own lives have medical crises and journeys ahead of them. And the reality of it is that all throughout our journeys, we have these moments where times get tough. How do we stay in the game? How do we keep leading when our humanity shows up on the journey? And what I was so amazed to find out when fear began to consume me, when I felt like, man, I don't know how I'm going to lead people. I don't know how I'm going to lead myself through different seasons and times of my own journey. I was amazed to find that the most repeated command by God in the Bible was fear not. That over and over again, over 360 times, God says to us, fear not, fear not, fear not. He said it to Joshua. He said it to Isaiah. He said it to prophets, major and minor alike. He said to them over and over again, fear not. And here's what I've come to find. If God repeats it, we should probably respond to it. That there must be something to this idea that when times get tough, that when it gets heavy, and it will, and this is safe space to say, man, I feel that on my shoulders, man. I feel that as I step into another year of leadership. Hey, God cares. God knows. And he still is saying, I'm with you. And as Isaiah 41:10, and I'm going to give you a couple of scriptures today. And I know you know the word, but I just want to encourage you with the word, because we don't just need it to encourage others. We need it for ourselves too. Isaiah 41:10, God says this, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you, and I will uphold you by my righteous right hand. And as I begin to think about this picture, I just want to quickly tell you this anecdote. I remember when I learned how to swim, and my story of learning how to swim was not ideal. My father was in the military. He was a Marine. And one day he saw me in the pool with my cousins and Duncan. All of my cousins could swim, but I could not. And so they were swimming from one side of the pool to the other, one side of the pool to the other, one side of the pool to the other. And here I am staying on the shallow end of the pool. And finally, my father had enough one day. One summer day, he said, I am tired of seeing my son in the shallow end of the pool. And so he didn't take me to a swim class. He didn't take me to a special instructor. He picked me up out of the shallow end. He walked me to the other side of the pool. And as the Marine in him, the military man in him, he said, he's going to be fine. He told my mama, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He just threw me in the deep end. And here I am on the other side of the pool, and I am struggling for dear life. And it's 8 a.m. here, and I know it's afternoon for you, but this may be a bit exaggerative. But many of you could probably see this picture. Here I am in the pool, and I'm struggling for dear life, right? Like, I'm doing everything in my power to keep my head above water. And maybe that's where you find yourself today. Like, I feel like that. Like God as Father has thrown me in the deep end. I signed up for this full of joy and full of hope and full of optimism. I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to build an outward-facing church, and I'm going to build a church that unchurched people love to attend, and we're going to change our city and our community. And that sounded great a couple years ago. It sounded great when you first got going. But, man, now you see yourself just, this is the deep end. And my dad said something to me when he leaned over the pool. I'll never forget it. He looked down in the water, and he said, son, I won't let you drown. And I just remember his words, and I remember his voice, and it kind of gave me a calm, not because I wasn't scared, not because I wasn't worried, not because I wasn't exhausted from treading, but he said, I won't let you drown. And when I think about Isaiah 41, I think that's what God is saying to us today. I think if I could encourage you as a leader from the word of God, I would tell you that he is still here to be with you, that he's still here to help you, and he's still here to uphold you with his righteous right hand. And if God repeats it, we should respond to it. So fear not, because you can do this. But it gets heavy and it gets tough. And the question becomes, why don't we continue forward? Or why does it feel so weighty at times? And here's what I've come to find. There are a couple of things that keep us from responding to being full of faith or staying in the game in a healthy way. One is just the worry of failure. In a lot of my research, I found out that one of the biggest fears and worries that obstructs us, particularly in difficult times and hard times, is the fear and the worry of failure. In our lives, we are trying to succeed. I don't think any of us get into any game, any season, any leadership and say, hey, I'm in this to fail, right? I'm in this for it not to work. But the fear and the worry of failure certainly shows up in all of our journeys. And I just want to encourage you to reframe failure in your leadership journey. I think that in tough times, it's very easy for our failure to feel like it defines us as opposed to it developing us. And if I could give you one reframing of failure, look at it as an opportunity to be developed, not to be defined. Times will get tough. Things won't always work. Initiatives, strategies, moments, measurables. How is it developing me, not defining me? I was a big basketball fan growing up, and Michael Jordan had this statement he made. He said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career, and I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times Michael Jordan took the game-winning shot and missed. He's failed over and over again. He said, and that is why I succeed. He reframed the moments of failure, the moments when it didn't work the way you planned, the moments where you have the temptation to say, this is too tough. I didn't do it. I can't do it. But Michael Jordan said, no, I kept shooting. I kept going for it. And he said this in one of his quotes, you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I know it's tough to keep shooting. I know it's tough to keep trying. But I want to encourage you not to allow the worry of failure to define you, but to develop you. But here's another one that I think we don't often talk about. Why don't we respond to this kind of endless or eternal advocacy to keep going and keep moving and fear not? Because the worry, and this was so amazing in the research that I found, that one of our greatest worries is being seen. And I wanted to pause here and kind of really lean in here, because I think as a topic like leading in tough times, I think one of the things we don't acknowledge enough as leaders is that one of our greatest fears is being seen. That they're going to figure out that I don't know what I'm doing. That one day they're going to recognize that I'm guessing a little bit. And I don't know if anybody in the chat can put an amen or a hand up on the screen. Just like one day they're going to figure out that I'm treading water, that this feels like it's a little bit above me. And here's what's so beautiful. Sometimes you can have that feeling when things are going bad, and sometimes you can have that feeling when things are going great. There have been seasons of high success in our church where we're growing and we're multiplying. We just had to go before our church, and we own 2 buildings here in Virginia. And I just had to tell our leadership team and our volunteer team that we're going back to being portable, because we have done everything in our power to scale and to grow and to add services. And we finally reached a point where parking and so, man, I'm like, I had a leader come up to me and ask me, hey, Pastor, do you feel like we failed? And I said, I don't know. I'm kind of figuring it out a little bit. I'm grateful that we've been able to acquire property, but now it feels like the right next step for us is to go back to setup and breakdown so that we can continue to grow and continue to create space for unchurched people and people who are curious about their faith. But that's going to bring new challenges and new asks and new questions. And I don't have all the answers yet. And in Steve Cuss's book, Managing Leadership Anxiety, he says leadership anxiety shows up whenever we get questions what we really don't have the answer to. And I don't know about you, but I get a lot of those. And sometimes those are the toughest times when people see you and you say, man, I'm the leader who doesn't have all the answers. I'm the leader that doesn't always feel strong. I'm the leader that's being vulnerable, that I don't have it all together. I am going to need help. Or I'm going to need time, or I'm going to need trust, because I need you to see that I'm not Jesus. I'm man, I'm woman, I'm human, but I'm following God and doing the best that I can. And I want to just invite you to be seen. There's a book that I loved called Strong and Weak by Andy Crouch. And he talks about Jesus is the perfect example of what it means to hold intention. That we are called to be both strong and weak. That he was strong enough to get up from the grave, but weak enough to die on the cross. That he was strong enough to heal the sick and still human enough to weep for Lazarus. Like, I just want to give you permission. If I can just kind of just let that sit on you for a moment. Like, man, tough times, difficult times, unexpected seasons may come. And maybe this is the only space somebody will tell you, you have permission to feel it all. To be human. To not have all the answers. To not have all the solutions, just to be seen. And God sees you. We see you. And it's okay. This happened to me. I mentioned to you earlier my journey that I was diagnosed with cancer, and I kind of went through that journey, and it was a beautiful way of learning to trust God in difficult times. But I got to a point in my late 20s where I was pretty healthy. I was working out. I was the healthiest I'd ever been. My wife and I had finally had 2 children, and so I was parenting. I was leading a church that was thriving and healthy, and we had just acquired our first property about 2 years before this, and so we were just growing, and just it felt like one of those seasons where everything was coming together as planned. And this is about a couple years ago, and actually this was around the time, I'll tell you a little sub story here. Duncan and I had planned for me to come and spend about 10 to 12 days in the UK, and I was going to preach at a couple churches, and I was going to do some leadership sessions, and I mean, I was excited. I was probably going to meet some of you a couple years ago. Everything was going as planned. And then, out of nowhere, unexpectedly, a piece of metal in my leg popped. And now, what once felt strong felt weak. What once felt like I had all the answers and the plan was working perfectly was completely uprooted. We had just launched a second location about 2 hours away from us. That campus pastor was 3 months into his tenure, and I told him I was going to walk with him and coach him. And here I am now about to abandon him. A trip to UK was canceled unexpectedly. All of these things that I had just been praying for and preparing for, and I'm like, man, I got it. All uprooted. And I had to end up getting a major surgery. I had to sit down literally for 3 months. They told me I could not move off of the couch. I could not go to the second floor of my home. Very often I was struggling with my own anxiety and depression because on the bottom floor of my house, I could hear my children coming in from school, and I could hear their footsteps on the second floor of our house. But I'm sitting down there, and Daddy can't come upstairs. I felt isolated. I felt away from all the community that I was used to singing week after week. And here I am, the leader, lonely. Here I am, the leader. Can I be honest with you? Mad with God. God, I'm doing all of this for you. I'm leading for you. I'm trusting you. Why did tough times fall on me? And maybe you've felt that before. Maybe your story, again, is not a medical issue, but you said, man, I've been there before. How do I keep leading when it's tough? Maybe in my personal life, maybe in my leadership life. I remember feeling like, how can anybody follow me if I'm not strong? But what I will tell you is that in that season, this book was birthed, where God showed me how to put my worry in its proper place. And I began to learn that there was a way to keep leading strong and healthy, even in tough times. So I want to share that with you now. Kind of how do we keep leading in tough times? And I'll take the next 10 minutes and then we'll take some questions. But I want to kind of give you one other scripture that kind of really frames this for me. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 2 and then verse 15. This is the story of Jehoshaphat, if you remember, and he's about to go into a battle. Talked about battles earlier. And he says this small words. He says, then some came and told him, a great multitude is coming against you from beyond the sea. So the issue is legitimate, right? But verse 15, do not be afraid. There it is again. Dismayed, for the battle is not yours, it's God's. Now, Jehoshaphat had just come out of a battle with a near-death experience, and then he lost his battle ally, Ahab. He's just died in the preceding battle. Everything is going wrong for Jehoshaphat at the moment when verse 15 is said. And he's learning a valuable lesson that we're all learning in our leadership as well, that reality doesn't always wait on your recovery. So when you have to keep leading in tough times, what do you do? Here's the first thing I found that I hope encourages you. Number one, find your pace. You got to find the right pace to keep leading in tough times. And what that many times means is you may have to adjust your pace. If you're like me, I can be very driven, I can be very ambitious, and I can be ready to run and ready to charge the hill and ready to fight all the battles at once and ready to be like, no, I'm going to build God's church and I'm going to build people and I'm going to do all the things and I'm going to bring vision to life. And I don't want you to lose zeal. And I don't want you to lose passion. We need passionate pastors and preachers and leaders. But I've come to find that very often I need to adjust my pace so that I can stay in the race. I need to adjust my pace so that I can stay in the race. I don't know if anybody up here is a marathon runner, but if you talk to marathon runners, they will tell you over and over again, hey, everything for me is about my personal PR, my personal goal. I'm racing against me. I'm figuring out how to pace myself. I should be at this mark at 6 miles and this point at 12 miles. They know how to pace themselves. Here's the other part of this, is that very often we rely on willpower. So our personal strength, our personal will, and what Cal Newport found in the book, Deep Work, is a great research study, is that willpower is not an unlimited resource. Statistically, you are not designed to constantly run off of willpower. And so I want to encourage you to know that your willpower can take you some length of time. This ability to kind of say, I'll power through it. I'll get through it. I'll tough my way through it. But at some point, you also need to rest. You also need a healthy rhythm. You also need to pull back. You may need to look at what's on your plate. At a practical level, as a leader, here's what I encourage. If you find yourself leading in tough times, a few practical things that I sometimes do. Number one, I check my sleep pattern. Because the first thing to go when you're leading in tough times is rest. But here's what I've come to find, that many of us rest from work, but we don't work from rest. And the best version of you leading is not the version of you that only rests from work, but the best version of you that's going to lead is the version of you that works from rest. So don't compromise getting to sleep. Here's another one for those who are married. I found that I have had to make sure that I did not compromise time with my family and with my spouse. As practical as that seems, I have found that a healthy home helps me be a healthier leader. And so my wife and I, our greatest benchmark from last year, our greatest data point that I'm most proud of, that we didn't miss a date night all year. And there were some seasons or some months where we had to adjust it or pick another different night because I was traveling. But once a week, every week last year, we made time for one another. Now, I'm not saying that was always our case, but we found a way last year and it paid dividends, not just in the health of our home, but in the health of how I showed up as a leader. I had to change my pace and put a boundary in place so that I could stay in the race. And here's the last practical thing that I would just tell you when it comes to pace, is that very often I've had to tell our team, hey, in seasons where it's tough, corporately as a team, we may have to readjust our strategy. And so here's our principle: better to do a few things great than a lot of things average. So I wanted to make sure you understood there's some personal things you need to do to adjust your pace. But even sometimes as a leader, when the team is feeling the tough time, when the team is saying, how do we navigate this? It's been really healthy for us to say, hey, better to do a few things great than a lot of things average. Hey, we're doing 9 things, we need to do 5. We're doing 10 things, we need to do 4, because it's going to help us stay in the game. Here's number two that I found has been really important. I had to find my place. What position do I need to be in that is a refuge, that refuels, that what we call a reservoir of joy? That as a leader, when you show up to the battle, when you show up to ministry, when you show up to the church, you are showing up as a soldier, as a warrior, as a leader, as somebody who people are coming to get something from very often. But where's the place you go to get poured into? That's why I love the Further Faster Network. That's why I love what Duncan and Matt are doing, because you need a place. You need a place where you say, hey, I don't have to give anything, I just get. I don't have to pour anything, it's poured back into me. You need a place to be poured into. You also need a place where you can, again, find your perspective. And so here's the quote that I say to our team quite often, that a change of pace and a change of place equals a change in perspective. A change in pace plus a change in place equals a change in perspective. I see more clearly when I pull away and get into a different environment. I see more clearly when I come to a call and I don't have to be the one creating the content, I just get to consume. I see more clearly when I take a vacation, right? Right? I see more clearly when I take everything off my schedule for a couple of days and I just kind of sit and look out over the water. You got to find the place to be able to see more clearly. There is this research study that they did in Japanese culture, and it was of the koi fish. It's a Japanese fish, and I write about this in the book because I think it's really important when we think about place. And what they studied with the Japanese koi fish is that if they took the fish and they put it in a kind of a very small environment, like a pond or something like that, it grew to 5 inches. They took the same fish and they measured it. They did the data. And they took them and they put them in a lake, larger body of water, and it grew to 12 inches. Took the same fish, put it in an ocean, and they monitored its growth. And they measured it at 15 inches. And here was the principle. They found out that the environment dictated the potential of its growth. That its ability to keep growing, keep going, keep progressing, maximizing its potential was less about its desire and more about its environment. And so I want to encourage you as a leader, when you start to hit tough times, when you start to hit difficult seasons, when you start to hit moments where it's like, man, this is less than ideal. Hey, find your way into a place that helps you grow. Find your way into the network. Find your way around people who can help you build. And that's the last thing I want to encourage you to do. When you're leading through tough times, find your people. There's this section of the book where I write this, and I think it's been one of the most important principles of my life probably in this season, that becoming brave is a personal project, but staying brave is a group project. You can't do this alone. I even think this is so interesting because very often we give David a lot of credit for his leadership and all the victories and the battles he won. But when you study the journey of David, the slingshot starts David's leadership, but it doesn't sustain it. And if you read through it, many of you know the Bible talks about David had 30 mighty men. And as I did all of my research around David and studied him extensively, I found 5 types of men and 5 types of people that David had in his life that we all need if we're going to keep staying brave. Life will bring challenges. Life will bring giants. Life will bring battles. How do we stay brave? We need 5 types of people. I'm going to give them to you really quick, and then I'm going to get ready for questions. Number 1, you need a catalyst. Somebody who inspires you to believe in you when you stop believing in you. Who is that for David? It was Samuel. Samuel was out in the field. He said, I'm content doing what I do. And Samuel said, no, there's more. And the reality of it is when you hit tough times as a leader, sometimes you stop believing in your full potential. Maybe this is all I'm called to do. Maybe this is all I'm called to build. Sometimes you need catalysts. Number 2, you need confidants. Jonathan said they were knit together in heart. You need some people who don't care and aren't impressed by all you can do, but just love you for you. Who say, man, I'm a safe space to be human, to be broken, to be vulnerable. You need some confidants. Number 3, you're not going to like this one. You need some contenders. If David doesn't have Goliath, there's no songs written about him. The songs only come because the giant came. And there are some battles that are going to build you up. And so sometimes I just don't want you to miss that the tough times you may be dealing with aren't all the enemy. Sometimes God is going to use something to usher you into your future. Here's number 4. You need champions. David had 30 mighty men. He had people who said, hey, I'm ready to fight with you. I'm ready to build with you. I'm ready to go with you. You need it. And then lastly, he had counselors. An example of that is Nathan. That after you've led and after you've built and after you've accomplished, when you hit a wall, when you can't see yourself as clearly as you need somebody who's a truth teller in your life. And I believe that even if you go outside of this is not a comprehensive list. Just want to encourage you to know that you cannot or you should not do this alone, that tough times are built for you to find the right people. I close with this, and then I'll take some questions. 2 Timothy 1:7. God has not given you the spirit of fear. You have power. He wants you to be full of love and a sound mind. And times may get tough, but take it from me. You can endure, but find your pace. Find the right place and find your people. And that'll help you not only start brave, but stay brave this year. Appreciate y'all.
Wow. I'm not sure anybody else needed to be on this call. I just feel like this is a conversation between you and me. God has used your words to really help me today. I want to take everybody back to the moment when your daddy picked you up and threw you in the deep end. Like, God, why am I here? I can't get my head above water. I'm sinking. I'm not supposed to be here. The shallow end was safe. Why have you put me here? And then to hear your father's words say, I won't let you drown. I mean, mate, that is so powerful. So powerful. And that idea of, we're not to fear, I love that thought. If God repeats it, and he repeats it, what the old preachers always used to say, he says it 365 times, one for every day of the year kind of thing, If he repeats it, then it's worth responding to what he repeats. If he's underlining it in red, we should listen, which is so good. And I love what you said about, can we allow fear to develop us, not define us? And again, I think it's our fear and our tough times so often, hey, that's me. I mean, you could be known as, hey, Vernon, the pastor who's had 14 surgeries. Yep. That could be something that defines you and rather than develops you into the leader that you are today. I have one question. Some of the questions that people have asked here. One of the questions I've got is a few, but we've got time for a couple. One of the questions I've got is, it's obvious where you had anxiety and fear when you had surgeries and you were diagnosed with cancer. But as a church leader, what is it right now? Because you seem successful. You've written a book. You've got a big church. You've got a big staff team. Right? What are you afraid of as a leader in a local church right now? What's the fear for you as a leader in what seems to be a successful ministry?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. And the idea of what am I afraid of right now? So I'd say a few things. Let me just start with, outside of being a leader, I'm a parent of a sixth grader and a fourth grader, and just parenting scares me. Beyond being a pastor and a leader, I am just praying to God, let me get this right. Like this is my first ministry. This is my first assignment. And so one of my biggest prayers right now is, Lord, help me parent in a way that honors you and that builds children who are ready for the world around them. So I think that's just always important to name that for all of us as leaders, right? Like we have anxieties and fears and worries that go beyond the pulpit, right? But as a leader, two things that I would say are probably I'm navigating as fear. Number one, after a certain amount of success, I think there becomes a certain amount of safeness. That the larger you grow or the more successful you become, the safer you become. And you actually stop responding to moments of faith or hope or innovation. And for me, I think we're at a point in leadership where I've had to learn that the greatest threat to future success is present success. That sometimes the thing that gets most scary is, hey, I don't want to mess up what has happened. So now I'm not taking advantage of what could happen. And so I think one of the things that I constantly have to navigate as a fear is the risk management of not playing it too safe, but making sure that I still remain innovative and courageous and bold, and that what got me here won't get me there always in systems, but the spirit of what got me here, I need to sometimes how sustain.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that scares me. And I would just say at a practical level, one other thing that I'm navigating, I just mentioned it earlier, is that we are in very difficult, we need more space. And just, I am having to do for the first time, a capital campaign at a very practical level. Fundraising just has me afraid, like I got to raise a significant amount of capital. And I've never, I mean, the numbers that our architect is throwing out, I've never even imagined raising money at this level before. And so that's actually very new for me. For all the things that we've been able to accomplish, we've been able to buy both of our buildings without doing a major capital campaign. They were unique opportunities, and we were able to jump on them. But now what we're talking about doing next is going to require me to work a muscle that'll be brand new for me. And so that's something I'm afraid of. Like, I was good enough maybe to preach, and I'm good enough to maybe build a volunteer team, but am I good enough? And am I enough of a leader to get people to part ways and to invest at a financial level? So that's probably my next chapter of conquering fear.
That's really helpful, especially the idea of, I mean, fundraising is something we all have to do. I can remember Hybels talking about it's no one else's responsibility but yours. If you're the leader, you have to put on the uniform, you have to put on the kit, you have to say, hey, I'm taking responsibility here. Yeah. And for many leaders, it's like, well, I thought that was the finance team. I thought that was the elder board, and it's like, no, you're the point person on this.
Yeah.
And that's scary when you have staff and bills to pay. But I love the idea that you talked about. I think, again, that resonates with so many of our leaders. Have I got the courage to go again? Because playing it safe just isn't an option. Playing it safe is the way to atrophy. Taking a risk is have I got the courage to do that? And of course, if I take a risk, I know there are people who aren't going to like it. We like the safe. We like the shallow end. Yeah. Let me drop a couple more questions your way, and then we'll be done just real quick. Erin's asked a great question. What are your most important personal disciplines, Vernon? Describe your personal devotion.
Yeah, great question. So I'll say, man, there are three personal disciplines or kind of rules of life that I kind of really hold fast to. The first is starting my day with devotion. The way I like to say it is I want to hear from God first before I hear from others.
Yeah.
It's a big difference between going to God to react to my day and going to my day from what I heard from God.
That's great.
And I think it kind of sets the tone. But I will give a practical example to that. I think I really struggled with that early on, particularly again as a young parent, because so many schedules and drop-offs. And so I actually practice what's called a keystone habit. If I wake up about 4:35 every morning, now that's not saying everybody has to do that, but that simple discipline of waking up about 4:35 a.m. every morning not only gives me the ability to make space for devotion, but I also work out in that time. I also do some meditation. I also do my planner for the day. And so between kind of 5 and 7, before the world gets moving and before my emails get going off, I'm really, really getting that momentum going. And so, but it starts with devotion and then taking care of my health. Another one is a weekly Sabbath. And I know it, sounds kind of cliche, but I think, man, we cannot miss the gift of pulling away and actually ensuring that we make space to just kind of rest. One of the things I often say is rest is not God's suggestion, it's God's commandment. And if you want to see the most from God in our leadership, then we best honor God's rhythm for our life. And when we're out of rhythm, I think we can see the effects of that as well. And as I said earlier, many of us rest from work, but we don't work from rest. So I think that's really important. And then the last one that I would say, just kind of a kind of personal discipline for me, is just investing in my exposure at least once a month. I want to be in an environment, or I want to be on a conversation where I'm listening and learning. I want to be a constant learner.
Yeah.
And I think reading books is one thing, but I think it takes something when you actually invite people in
Yeah.
to say, hey, hold me accountable. Tell me what I missed. Tell me my blind spot. Pastor Andy Stanley talks about that in his book, Next Generation Leader, when he talks about coaching. A coach's best offering to us is when they can see us doing the thing. And so I got a couple of people in my life where I'm like, hey, tune me up a little bit. And that once a month practice keeps me humble.
Yeah.
No matter what's happening, it just says, hey, there's a place every month for somebody to tell me that you're not that great. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that's been really helpful for my heart to stay humble
Yeah.
and to stay healthy.
Hey, I'm happy to text you once a month and say, Vernon, I love you, but you're not that great. If that helps, I'm happy to
Please
do
do.
that. Last question, and then we're going to jump onto the exclusive half an hour for our lead pastors in our network. But I didn't want to push this one away because it's so profound and so important. Somebody's dropped this in the question. What practical things would you say to someone who may be considering throwing in the towel in ministry because they feel like they're drowning, they feel like they're overwhelmed and everything's an exhausting battle rather than an exciting dream? What practical things would you say to someone who's saying, mate, I've been in it years, but I'm done. It's too hard. The deep end's horrible.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say at a practical level is to really be intentional in this season about the places you're being vulnerable.
Yeah.
You need a couple of people. I don't think you need 12, but you need 2 or 3 people who don't try to, and I want to be very careful about this, who aren't trying to convince you to stay in it. They just give you space to be human in it.
Yeah.
I think you need a place to feel. I think you need a place to cry. I think you need a place to scream. I think you need a
Yeah.
place to vent. Because sometimes when we get it all out and on the table, then it's an opportunity to say, okay, now what does all this mean? Now that I have the puzzle pieces, let's put together the next picture. 2, I would encourage you to maybe think about scale. And again, I don't know the unique context, but what I often say is it may be a great season to think about scaling the ministry. Man, maybe I'm exhausted and I just can't keep doing all of this the same way. And so, hey, for the good of my health, if I'm going to stay in the game, I got to do less. Less is going to be more. And so I've had a couple of seasons when I was having that surgery and I was preparing to transition. There were several initiatives, projects, things that our church was doing, and I was in physical pain, but I was also emotionally trying to figure out where I was and man, all of the dynamics of leadership. And so what I started to do was say, hey, we're gonna shut that event down for the season. We're gonna move that initiative and we'll maybe do it next year, but we'll reevaluate. But this is all I have the capacity to do right now.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with myself, and I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
This is all I got. And then lastly, I would tell you at a practical level to really be intentional about maybe inviting in not just voices, but leaders to help you lift the weight for a season.
Yeah.
That could look like saying I normally preach 45 times a year, but this year I can only do 30. I got to bring in other voices for a meeting because I know I'm pouring from an empty cup. But I think a lot of what also burns us out is having to perform.
Yeah.
Like if you could take a moment and say, man, I need to step away from, if you got the ability to take a sabbatical, that's great. But if you don't, even just pulling back from the performative aspects of what we're called to do.
Yeah.
While we don't believe it's performance, sometimes when you're empty, it can start to feel like, I got to say something this week, and I got nothing. And if you can maybe reduce that, I think it can give some space for that tank to be filled just a bit. Duncan, I know that was your last question. If I could just really quickly tell everybody, man, thank you. I know that I'm just a guy that you just met from across the pond. But I just want to let you guys know it's an honor to be able to just spend this time with you. And it is my sincere prayer that this is not the last time that Duncan and Matt would invite me back. But just so you guys know, the book is out everywhere that books are sold. It's called Life Beyond Fear. And I hope that that also is a resource to you, to just see yourself and to find the strength to keep going. Also, I did share with Duncan, I actually unexpectedly about a week ago, I found out I'm going to be in London on March the 1st, preaching at a church that Sunday morning. But I get in that Saturday morning, and so I will be there the 29th. That evening I'm free, and that Monday and Tuesday I'm in town, the 2nd and the 3rd. So if anybody has a podcast or want to connect, I know I'm trying to get together with coffee with Duncan, but if anybody's interested, got an event or anything, last minute, but I will be there. And my email is pastor@wearetoc.org. I don't know if we can put that in the chat, but
Yeah.
really simple, pastor@wearetoc.org. Would love to connect with as many people as I can while I'm there. My wife and I are excited to be on you guys' side of the water. So looking forward to it.
Fabulous. Thank you. Listen, are we allowed to pray on Zoom? I mean, can that happen? Is that
I think so.
all right? Because it feels like, that moment, and I know we've run out of time, but that moment when Moses stands in front of the burning bush and God says, dude, take your shoes off. This is holy, holy ground. And most of our how-to hubs finish with pages and pages of notes and people with lots of questions about practically how do we make it. And I just feel like God's saying, today it's different. Today's holy ground. So I wonder whether you wouldn't mind taking a moment to bring all of us, because the truth is, for some of us, we are ready to throw the towel in. But for all of us, there's some pain, there's some fear, there's some anxiety that's dragging us into the deep end. So can you just pray for all of us? We'd appreciate that. And then our time's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Eternal and all wise God, we say thank you. Thank you for the reminder that is found in Isaiah 41, that you are the God who goes before us. You are also the God who goes with us, that you desire to help us and strengthen us and uphold us with your hands. And so, Father, today we have the podcast, we have the books, we've read the content, we know how to do it all. But today, may we have been reminded that we're sons and daughters in your sight, that we're safe, that we are human, and that we have permission to be the leaders who can solve problems and the leaders who can feel deeply. God, I pray now that your spirit that brings peace and joy and love, power, and a sound mind would rest on us like it hasn't maybe in months or years, and that we would feel encouraged from the inside out. I pray that somebody who was feeling like they had to show up to another call to just figure out the 10 steps and the 5 steps would be reminded that you don't just care about what they're building, but you care about who they are, that you care about their burdens, that you care about their humanity, and that you are the God who wants to see them not only win at the work, but win at life. And so, Father, I pray now that we would embrace your spirit, your love, your Holy Spirit as comforter, your truth that you are for us and that you are with us, and that we might stay in the game. That even when it gets tough, we would know it's worth it to stay, because there's a church, there's a person, there's a leader who's been looking for what we have to offer. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it. So next time we're together on the How To Hub is March 4 with Dr. Gavin Adams, who is spectacular in terms of helping church leaders go forward. So make sure that's in your diary. 1 o'clock. You can go to furtherfaster.network and register for that. It's free. You can register you and your team straight away for that to make sure you're involved with that. Matt, can I just ask, does everybody in our lead pastors, do they all know? Maybe you want to unmute yourself, Matt, and pop back on the call here. Does everybody know where to go next? Is that all good?
Yep, they should do. So all the information for the upcoming Q&A with Vernon is in the lead pastor chat, which if you're part of the network, you will know what I'm talking about.